All right, so hello and welcome everyone. Our first class today for the fibromyalgia workshop is about stress and what that does to your brain, and it's going to be kind of experiential because we're going to actually have each of you test each other on whether your brain's actually stressed. And the reason this is such an important topic, and I only learned this probably 2 years ago, is that if your brain is in the stress mode, you can't heal. Now 30 years ago when we did natural medicine, and we did things like, herbs and supplements and acupuncture, worked incredibly well for chronic pain and other illnesses like fibromyalgia. But then what happened was something happened to our environment, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, and now people are not healing. They're getting the same wonderful holistic alternative treatments, and they're not responding. And we're like, what's going on? So this is what we're going to learn about today, what we call brain stress or brain imbalance. And then I'm going to give you 2 exercises or 2 methods on how you can get your brain back into balance. I know some of my patients already who are here today know this is one of the secrets, so don't tell yet until we get to that point. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So just a little bit about me. I am a holistic physician, and I've always been interested in acupuncture since med school, but to be perfectly honest, I went to med school to become a real doctor. So my aunt and uncles, who were in acupuncture, they weren't all that pleased with me because I told them I wasn't really going to do acupuncture because I wanted to do real medicine. But that was until, of course, I got sick myself, and that was around the year 2000. Anybody ever heard of that term, build a house, lose a spouse? No? No one's ever heard that. Wow. Okay, well, one person. Okay, that happened to me. Well, it was a very stressful time, and I became really sick with fibromyalgia chronic fatigue myself. And I talk about that story in my book, Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, A Holistic Approach. So I pretty much burnt myself out completely at the age of 34, and wasn't able to work full-time anymore. In fact, I went to the office with a smile on my face, but was in incredible pain, had to sleep 14 hours a day, and my husband at the time did everything, the laundry, the cleaning, the dishes, everything, because I was so exhausted. And at that point I decided I just could not live that way anymore. I said I either want to die, which I really did, I wanted to die, or I wanted to make a huge shift. And I decided I wanted to live, and I tried things in Western medicine, but I knew for people with fibromyalgia chronic fatigue syndrome, the secret is we never get them that much better in Western medicine. We just don't. We give them antidepressants, we give them sleep medicines, we go to physical therapy, and we just pray they're not in our in our appointment book next week because they're a lot of they're a lot of work. And I hate to tell you this, but it's the truth. It's really hard to treat these. So I went on a journey to alternative medicine, and long story short, after 10 years, there's a lot of information I've gained, and I can't wait to share some of this with you. All right, so that's James and myself, by the way. So a copy of these slides will be online for you to download in case you're not much of a note taker, and that's okay. And also on my website, KarenCan.com, you will be able to download the first 6 chapters free of my book, Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, and I give you full permission, no copyright or whatever, full permission to give those 6 chapters away to everybody you know. Just email them, attach them, post it on your website, blog, whatever. We just want to get the information out. And the information to present today is actually in chapter 6, so it's actually free. Okay, so today we're going to go over the kind of the top 5 symptoms that I see in the office that tells me that the brain is in stress mode, not in healing mode. And then how come this, why this is happening in this day and age. And also some of the top lifestyle changes that I recommend to my patients. Don't always follow them myself, I try, but that will help us get out of that stress cycle. And then lastly, we're going to actually do some testing to see if you are actually in stress mode or you're in healing mode. So we're going to talk about how to test your brain balance. Because once your brain balance, that means you're in healing mode, and then if you have good therapies, good nutrition, whatever it is you're doing, then they'll start working and helping and holding. And we'll show you at the very end the 2 healing modalities that you can use to help you balance your brain and keep your brain balanced. Okay, so what is your body's natural healing mode? Now this is a little bit of verbiage, so I apologize, but The autonomic nervous system is the part of your nervous system that actually controls your digestion, your respiration, and there's two modes. There's like stress mode, and then there's relaxation mode. Fight or flight. How many people have heard of fight or flight? Yeah, everybody, right? And then the relaxation. So fight or flight is the stress mode, and the relaxation mode is the opposite. So what kind of symptoms do we get when we're stressed? Can anybody just offer up, just shout out some symptoms?
Anxiety.
Anxiety, great one.
Grumpy.
Grumpy, yes, grumpy and irritable.
Intestinal upset.
Intestinal upset, yeah, and people don't know that, but that's absolutely true. I remember going through my medical school exam and I was like doubled over because I was so in pain.
Inability to sleep.
Can't sleep, yes. Other symptoms?
Can't focus.
Can't focus, yeah, brain fog, absolutely. That's one of our top symptoms.
Overweight.
Being overweight, yes, long-term stress can do that. Absolutely. Wow, you guys are on. Awesome. So the opposite, of course, is relaxation response. So heart, sometimes you can actually feel your heart pounding faster. And that's what was happening to me last night as I was thinking about doing this up here. I better go to bed. Oh, I'm too excited. Sometimes there's good stress and sometimes it's bad stress. So some of the other things that can happen is that your muscles get tight when you're stressed. Anybody ever notice that? When you get more stressed, that your muscles kind of get tight? And your tendons attaches to your outfit. Okay. Note to self, don't wear this outfit. All right, so I'll give you some of the answers here, but when I went and did a talk with the people, the nice people at the Rotary Club, and I asked them, name me some stressors. And so, people put up there, my husband, my children, my job. But that was about it. It was all about their relationships and about their own internal stress, but there's a lot of other stresses that actually cause our bodies to go into this tight response, this fight or flight, and we don't even know that they're going on. So I've given you some hints here. So toxic food. What's toxic food? What's toxic in food anyway? Can anybody?
Pesticides.
Pesticides? Yeah.
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah. Sugar is one of the top toxins that we have, especially refined white sugar. Artificial flavoring. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Wheat. Well, wheat is hybridized and kind of mutated over the years, although we wouldn't say that it's necessarily toxic, but relatively our bodies can't digest it, so yes, that could be.
Dramatically.
It has changed, yeah. So our bodies are like, what is this foreign thing, right? But this is alien that's going in our bodies. Sorry, what did you say back there?
GMOs.
Ah, yay! Genetically modified foods, yes. Okay, now who knows some of the top GMO foods in the country?
Corn.
Corn, yes. Anybody else? Soy, yes. Not meat. Canola? Yeah, canola. Cottonseed oil, that's cottonseed and sugar beets or some of the other ones. But corn and soy are the two biggies. So I tell my patients, even if they're not allergic or intolerant of corn, that they need to read the label. What's the only state that has labeling for GMOs? Anybody know?
Vermont.
Vermont! Yay, Vermont! Give Vermont a hand. Okay, everybody from Vermont, we love you. You guys are awesome. So, and by the way, if you're joining us on live stream, welcome, welcome. Sorry if the slides look backwards to you. I'm not really sure how they're going to turn out, but we appreciate you being on the webinar today. All right, so let's see what else. We've got polluted water and air. So what is actually in our water and what's in our air that could cause stress? What could be in our water that might be polluted? Or what? Fluoride, okay. Chlorine and fluorine, yes. Yeah. So why would those things be a toxin to the body? Does anybody know one of the major toxic effects? Has to do with your thyroid. Hint, hint. Iodine. People have heard of iodine? Yes? Put up your hand. Yes. Okay. So iodine is necessary for our thyroids and many of the organs in our bodies to function, but we kind of have a low iodine diet. We used to do iodized salt, and then they told us salt was bad, so people aren't getting the iodine that they're used to, and we're not close to the sea, so we're not getting salt either that way, the iodine from the salt from the sea. So when you have fluoride and chloride, so in those forms, they compete with the receptors in the thyroid and other organs. If you have low iodine, the fluoride and the chlorine will push the iodine out of the thyroid. and will attach onto those receptors. Depends what you have more of. If you got more iodine, they'll push the chlorine out, great, or the fluoride. But if you have more fluoride and chloride, because all the water, can you imagine, buying, drinks or beverages or sodas in the stores, and what are they mostly made of? Tap water. Most tap water has chlorine and fluorine in it, at least commercially. Maybe not all towns have it. Maybe your water doesn't have it, but if buying something that's bottled, you're getting these doses. So that is a good example of how we can have pollution in the water. What about in the air? What do we have in the air? Oops, I didn't hear. Okay, that's coming. Thank you. Yes. So toxins in the home, that's going to be electromagnetic frequencies. So we've actually, this lovely little thing here is actually to help protect me because I'm kind of sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. So it's something that I wear to kind of ground me a little bit better to the electromagnetic frequencies. So every machine that's connected to a plug has electromagnetic frequencies, and it has like a cloud frequency. And that actually is a cause of stress in our bodies. Even having electricity alone in our house, if you didn't plug anything else in, the wiring with that pulsing at 60 hertz also causes a stress on the nervous system. You can measure it with machines. So, has anybody ever had a blackout? And remember what that feels like when you have a blackout in your house? Yeah. You actually kind of, I don't know about you, but I feel completely like calm and peaceful. Because that nervous system stress is gone. It's amazing. And I have one of my patients with fibromyalgia. I couldn't make it today. And she said whenever the power's out, she says her fibromyalgia gets better. It's so awesome to be able to see the difference. So what I was getting with the air is that there's different pollutions in the pollution in the air, toxic waste from factories, that kind of thing. But there's also something called chemtrails. Anybody heard of chemtrails? Aha, some people have heard of chemtrails. So there are planes that actually, spew the stuff at the back of the plane, and you'll see these white lines and above, and you'll know it's not regular vapor from the jet planes because it stays there. It doesn't disappear after a few minutes. And that's called cloud seeding. They actually use heavy metals like aluminum to seed the clouds, and then they shoot microwaves with this big, huge device called HAARP from Alaska, and they shoot the microwaves, and they can actually pinpoint what city or what town or what storm they want to affect, and it's called geoengineering. So there's a movie called Why in the World Are They Spraying? So you might want to write that down. That's a free YouTube video to talk about more of that. So that causes fungal infections in plants and animals, and I can't imagine why it wouldn't cause that in humans as well. But they're thinking that they're helping global warming. But sometimes these new technologies might not be so great for us. So toxins in the home. We talked about electromagnetic toxins. So we've got also wireless toxins, wireless internet, cell phone toxins. The one thing, if you don't remember anything else from today's event, except for, of course, Marie and Cathy stuff, is that if you have a cell phone, never, ever, ever sleep with it next to your bed unless you turn it into the airplane mode, or preferably, try not to charge it because the battery itself also has an EMF register as well. So, if you have a protection device, we have a few we can show you. It's still not 100%, so it's best not to charge your cell phone or use it as an alarm clock. And when I went a couple weeks ago to the high school to talk with the high schoolers about that, you just, because they're attached to their phone, right? They go to the bathroom, they have their phone, everywhere they have their phone. So that was a real shock to them that was making a difference in their lives. Okay, so the symptoms that your brain's not in stress mode, we already talked about a lot of those. Chronic pain. If you have chronic pain, you almost automatically will fail one part of this stress test that we're going to put your brain through. Not being able to sleep, being tired all the time because you're not getting into restful sleep. By the way, how many people, if you don't mind answering, how many people sleep through the night and never have to wake up? Anybody? Okay, yay, couple people. Excellent. Okay, so how many people dream every single night and they remember their dreams when they first wake up? Okay, not that many. So it is normal to sleep through the night, and it is normal to not have to go pee even when you're older. Yes. And it is normal to dream every single night, and you should have wild, vivid, and technicolor dreams. The minute you wake up, you should be like, oh, that was really interesting. Be able to tell somebody what the dream was. I don't expect you to remember it 20 hours later, but that is that deep level of sleep. You go through all the different stages. You go through the dream stage, and then right at the bottom, that lowest vibration, that's delta wave sleep, and that's where your body heals. So if you're not even remembering very many dreams, you might not be able to get into that healing state, which is what we want your brain to get into so you can actually heal yourself. And then brain fog we talked about earlier, too. Okay, so 5 life changes to jumpstart your healing. So the first one is, well, actually, why do you want to do this? Because your lifestyle is a huge part of why people are sick and why they're not sick. Like, how many people before today knew that cell phone radiation was probably dangerous? Anybody? Okay, so quite a few of you. So you're the more knowledgeable of the group. You ask the 15-year-olds and nobody knows. So if you can kind of institute some or all of these lifestyle changes, that'll help prevent your body from going through more and more stress. So let's see. We've got... All right, this is a tough one for me, I gotta tell you. To be perfectly honest, I'm a night owl. I've always been a night owl. My whole family's a night owl. In fact, at 3 a.m. in the morning, and James will attest to this, my parents are doing stuff, and we'll be staying at their house, and you'll hear, like, you know, upstairs on my mom going up the stairs. We're like, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, please go to bed. So I'm getting better at this, but it's tough for me because I'm such a night owl. But if you can go to bed before 10:30, even before 10, then what happens is you don't get that extra spike of stress hormones, which unfortunately sometimes I exercise at night because we skate at night. James and I train in skating, and sometimes that's the only time they have it is at night for us. So I come home at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm like, ding, wide awake. Why? Because I've had a cortisol spike, and then it's hard to sleep. But if you can get to bed before 10 or 10:30, you don't get that spike, and then you can actually go and sleep much better. And the cool thing is, how many of you would just love to, like, reverse age? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Well, you know, human growth hormone is one of those hormones that we release when we're healthy, and it keeps us slim. It helps, you know, lean body mass, you know, get muscles and keep your muscles. But if we don't go to bed early enough, we actually don't get that growth hormone release. And then we can get heavier and heavier. I had one guy one time who actually went to see Marie, and she found out he wasn't breathing when he was sleeping because, you know, he's on a massage table, and he's like, Karen, he's not breathing. You better check out his breathing. So we booked him for a sleep apnea test, and it was amazing because he had gained quite a bit of weight. And once we fixed his sleep with one of the tools that we used, in fact, he never ended up getting the sleep study because he cured himself. But basically, he lost like 10 pounds practically overnight, like in a week. It was amazing, and it's because he was now getting sleep. He was dreaming, and I think that growth hormone just went, whoa, I can get released now, and he just shed all that weight. It was amazing. Okay, lifestyle change number 2. This is where Cathy comes in. Okay, so I could say cut the crap, but what I mean is there's toxic food, there's toxic things in our environment. The number one thing that is the least popular in my practice is asking my patients to stop coffee. They're so attached to their coffee. It really is one of the most addictive substances, more addictive than cocaine, I believe. And the caffeine causes your adrenal glands to fire. You know, and people, how many people have ever heard somebody say, oh, coffee doesn't affect me, I sleep great? Has everybody heard of that? I tell them, that's a bad thing. You want to be able for your adrenals to actually create a stress response when a deer is going to run at your car, you know? But what happens is if you can sleep fine after a coffee, you don't get the jitters, that means your body's already pooped out. Your adrenal glands, those poor little glands on top of your kidneys, are already pooped out, and they don't give you the stress reaction. That's why sometimes after people stop coffee for 3 months, they might go to a party and they'll, oh, I'll just have a little cup of coffee, and they're up all night. And they said, well, what did you do to me? I said, what do you mean, what did I do to you? I said, you detoxified off the caffeine. So now your body is awake. And when you drink the caffeine, it gives you the signal it's supposed to be giving you. So it's like a huge aha for most people. But it's a tough one to convince people because they're so attached to their coffee and they think it gives them energy. But it's sort of like robbing the bank. It's sort of like taking a big loan out of your energy bank every time you drink coffee. There are, you know, are there exceptions? Yeah, I think that once your adrenals and those kidneys are really happy, you can drink the occasional coffee, it'd be fine. you know, but unfortunately for most people, it's a daily thing. So about sugar, okay, so sugar is one of the other toxic substances we have, especially white sugar. And we eat, how many people know how many pounds of sugar they say that they think Americans eat this per year, per capita? Anybody know the number? Well, back in the 1700s, it was, I think, 4 pounds per year. It is now up to 180 pounds. So that's a lot of sugar. Yeah, sugar causes all sorts of problems, including infections, because those little bugs that are bad bugs, they like sugar. Processed food, of course, is the other one. And why would processed food be bad? I mean, it's food, isn't it? I mean, food's all the same. Yes, no?
Chemicals in it.
Chemicals, okay. There might be some chemicals. So say, well, what if you get organic processed food? I mean, it's still better, yes, true, it is better. But what's the difference between eating a whole bunch of organic boxed food versus eating whole foods like, you know, a baked chicken with some sweet potatoes and asparagus, or something you would get at, you know, Cathy's restaurant? What's the big difference between those two besides the taste?
Fiber.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fiber.
Vibration.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So whole food, especially if you have it from the local farmer's market, it's a completely different level of energy that's in it. And you can, and Marie's going to have a wonderful slide that she'll show you that we can actually see energy with certain types of equipment. It's really cool. So whole foods is definitely more energy. And the other thing too is our soils are depleted of minerals as it is. In 1930, you know, they had a whole thing on Congress that said our soils are depleted, we're in big trouble. But then nothing happened. So what do you think our soils are now? Even worse. So when you process the food, the minerals get lost, especially magnesium. That's the number one mineral that tends to be deficient. And people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, 100% either are deficient or they cannot use the magnesium. There's a signaling mechanism that's wrong in their body, and they can't process magnesium. So it's a big deal to eat whole foods versus processed food. Okay, be in nature. We're talking about vibration. Oops. Okay, so be in nature really helps. It helps you have a positive energy. Nature has all sorts of different kinds of vibration, all positive vibrations. And Marie's always trying to get me outside because I'm more than happy to sit behind a computer and work all day because that's, you know, I'm an indoor city girl. But getting out in nature really makes a huge difference, especially if you put your feet on the ground in the summer especially. Don't expect you to do it in the middle of winter. It really helps heal your body. And the other lifestyle change is you know, talking about pure water, drinking pure water, getting your food from local sources, things that, there's different things. I mean, if you filter your water, that's very helpful, but there are other ways I talk about in my book where you can re-energize your water, because the water's still dead after it comes through pipe. 200 feet of pipe is the length that it takes, and then the water dies, the energy in the water dies. And almost everybody has water coming through at least 200 feet of pipe. So there's different equipment, there's different kinds of things you can do to revitalize your water so that your cells actually know that, hey, it's water, it's good for me. So the water can go in your cells, flush out the toxins, and get the nutrients in. And the last one I found is extremely helpful is connecting with spirit. I did not heal myself from fibromyalgia without this step. And you know, I've done lots of, you know, energy therapies, nutrition, supplements, all sorts of wonderful, wonderful alternative therapies. But without looking at the spiritual piece, I probably would still be disabled. So this is one of the fastest ways that I healed. And it's not like you have to be a big spirit expert. Just doing, if you have, you know, some sort of spiritual practice, meditation or prayer, daily gratitude journal, focusing what you're grateful for can hugely change your vibration and make a big difference in your life. All right, so I need a volunteer that does not have shoulder pain today. Anybody want to volunteer? Okay, Jane, come on up. Thank you. So this is Jane, everybody. Say hi, Jane. Hi, Jane. All right. Okay, so Jane, I'm going to show you, now pay attention because you're going to do this in a moment with each other. So we're going to do a brain balancing test on you, Jane. Now, we're going to use your shoulder. So the first thing you want to do when you get partnered up is ask your partner, do you have any shoulder pain?
No.
No, okay. So I'm going to just be pressing down a little bit on your arm, about 2 pounds. You think that'll be okay?
That'll be fine.
Okay. So you're going to put your arm out front. And I usually like people to make a fist and put their thumb up because they're a little stronger that way. And I'm going to take 2 fingers like this, just above their wrist bone. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to be touching them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell her to resist, and I'm going to slowly push down 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And then I'm going to see if she gives way or whether she locks. So ready? Okay, and resist. Okay, now she didn't move. So that's called a lock. That's a normal response. So now we're going to see if the energy is running correctly in Jane's body. Now, if it's not, that means she's in the stress mode. So Jane, you're going to say, my name is Jane.
My name is Jane.
Okay, and then you're going to resist. Okay, she's pretty strong. So now we're going to see if she's testable. And you're going to say, my name is Bob.
My name is Bob.
That's not your nickname, is it?
No.
Okay. All right, so say it again, my name is Bob.
My name is Bob.
And resist. Okay, can you see the difference? I'm actually not pushing harder. So go ahead, say, my name is Bob.
My name is Bob.
Okay. My name is Jane.
My name is Jane.
And resist. Yeah. So after, if you test each other, just make sure the person's ready for you. Say my name is Jane, and then you do it right away. You have to say resist, and they're ready. So my name is Jane.
My name is Jane.
And resist. Good. Now, Jane kind of knows the drill because we've done this before with her, but I'm going to show you how we do the brain stress test. Okay, so you're going to put this, once you've established that they are who they are, if they're not, they can't do the stress test. So this is Jane. Went strong on Jane. Everybody agrees, yes?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So now we're going to test each side of Jane's brain. So the left side, you're going to put your left hand over the left side. Yep, perfect. You're going to resist. Okay, she's pretty strong there. Okay, now you're going to go to the other side, and you're going to resist. Slowly. Try that again on the left. And resist. Good. She's really strong. Okay, and then switch to the other side. And resist. Okay, so can you tell the difference? Yes, so she's a little weak on that side. Do you have that one?
No.
Do you want
We asked
one?
if she had one of our healing tools on. She said no. So this is a real test. Okay, so then you're going to take, you're going to ask your partner to take their hand. They're going to hover the palm over the belly button. Yeah. Okay, and resist again. Okay, you're a little bit weak there too. Okay, and again one more time. Yeah. Okay. So she kind of had that give way. So unfortunately, Jane is not brain balanced at the moment. At the moment. But we will correct that shortly.
Hydrate.
Yes, hydrate. Yes, hydration is very important.
Can I have her back to the
Oh, good. Excellent. Excellent. Good. Okay, so I'm going to have everybody please stand up, pick a partner. And if somebody has shoulder problems, you can always go in and set a tree. Yes, you have a question?
What's the yelling part now?
Oh, this is like your stress handling system to see whether your autonomic nervous system is regulating or not regulating. And this is to see whether the two sides of your brain are communicating. That's a good question. Okay, so the tallest person is going to be fantastic. So for everybody who's fantastic, put your arm up, please. Okay, awesome. Okay, the other person. Okay, does anybody not have a partner? Okay, seems like everybody has a partner. Awesome. If not, then Marie can teach. Okay, so the other person's going to be awesome. So the shorter person, put your hand up now. You're awesome. Okay, everybody who's fantastic, put your arm up. Excellent, you guys got it. Okay, you are fantastic, sir. I know you are. Okay, everybody who's amazing, put your arm up. Awesome. Excellent. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, I use different words in different webinars, so thank you. Okay, so we got awesome and fantastic. So, fantastic, you're going to be the person testing the other person. Okay, so you're going to be testing awesome. So the first thing you turn and ask them is what? Do you have any shoulder problems? Yes. And if they do, use the other one, or maybe you can't test them. Yes. Okay, you want to make sure you have some room, so spread out a little bit. Okay, and so so awesome. You're going to pick whichever arm you want to test, and you're going to put it out here, so about shoulder level. So I'll have you. Jane's going to demonstrate. That's perfect. Excellent. I'm looking around. Excellent. Now you at home, get a partner or your dog. No, I'm just kidding. And you can do this too. So now you're going to put 2 fingers right above the wrist bone. Yep. And you're going to gently push down. When you say resist in a moment, gently press down over 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and they should be able to resist you. Okay, so let's try it. Ready? Go. Resist. Resist. Good. Okay, and just remember, do it really slow and gradual so you don't overcome them. Okay, and relax. So, did anybody not have a strong arm or strong to resist? Can I see you watch? Okay.
Resist.
Okay. So maybe Barbara go just a little. Go ahead and touch the person. Yep. Start with them touch and then now resist. There you go. Yeah. So if you come from a distance, there's more leverage. So you want to just stay touched. Okay. Good. So now you're going to have them say their name. So my name is Bob, my name is Susie, whatever your name is, and then you're going to say resist, and then push down to see what happens. So my name is Jane.
My name is Jane.
And then you can relax. Okay, did anybody get a weak response?
Yeah.
Aha. Okay, I will test you afterwards.
No, not for that. Her name. Her father's name. Just weak on her father's name. Perfect.
Oh, okay, so you went ahead. So everybody tested strong on their own name, yes, so far? Wow, good group. Excellent. No one's reverse polarity today. Okay, so now put your arm back up. And now you're going to say it a different name. Make sure it's not somebody's nickname. So my name is Bob. My name is Jessie. So my name is Bob. My name is Bob. Okay. Did everybody get a weaker response?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody not? Anybody get a stronger response? Okay. One person. Okay. Double check and do the name again. We just want to make sure. Okay. Excellent. So you got a weak response too?
No, she got a strong response.
On the second name?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Okay, so we have some Bobs and Janes that aren't really Bobs and Janes today, and that means that their energy is running backwards, and usually we do need to fix that for them to be in healing mode. So we haven't even tested the brain balance. So for those that tested opposite, you actually can't do the next part of the test yet, but we'll hopefully fix you by the end of today. So Jane, you're going to put your arm back up. So now you're going to tell them to put the one hand over one side of their brain, and then tell them to resist. Okay, and then do it a couple times, and then switch to the other side and resist, and make a note of which one is stronger than the other. And if they're both strong, that's awesome. And then over the belly like this. Over the belly button. Are you guys confused over there? No? Okay. Did anybody get someone that was strong on all three? Yeah, were you? Excellent. Okay. So who had one side stronger than the other? Who had one side of the brain stronger than the other? Okay. And who had both sides of the brain equally as strong? Okay, and you're not sure? No, I know. You're the one that's not going to put it up your hand no matter what I say. That's okay. Okay, and then what about who was weak when we did the belly? Okay, yeah, do the belly if you haven't done already. Yeah, so we're actually going to do a breathing exercise, and we'll see if we can fix that brain balance, at least temporarily. So this means that you're definitely in stress mode if you're weak on this one. And then if you're weak on either side, that means one side of your brain's actually not, well, your brain hemispheres are not communicating very well, and one side's more stressed than the other. If you're weak on the right, that means the right side's more stressed. If you're weak on the left, that means your left side's more stressed. So everybody, thank your partner. Oh, we got to switch, right? Okay, switch. So awesome is testing, fantastic. All right. Okay. Okay, so again, do their name first. My name is Bob. Yeah, that's a perfect amount of pressure. Yeah, remember to keep your fingers on there. Press gently. So is anybody Bob? Oh no! Okay, we got a patch. Okay, we got a Bob. Do you have your patches on today, young lady? Ah. So we got a couple of Bobs. Okay, now go ahead and test the brain balance as long as the person is testable. If you're Bob, you're not testable, unfortunately, because you're kind of opposite. Right? You just want to say resist. Okay. Awesome. All right, does anybody have the right side weak? The fantastic. Anybody with the either right or left side weak? Okay, a couple people. How many people were totally balanced? How many fantastic totally balanced? Oh, we got one there. Awesome. How many people had this one week, the belly weak? Okay, yeah, so that's that stress response. So definitely, you know, turn the cell phone and cordless phone off. All right, everybody, please have a seat. Thank you, partner. Thank you.
Learning right now.
Usually not for, like, usually it's a chronic thing. It has to be stressed for a long time before it'll change. Yeah. But, however, if you happen to have been talking on your cell phone for quite a while this morning, that could actually do it. Or if you slept last night with the cell phone. The cordless phone, by the way, does the same kind of thing. So if you don't want a cordless phone in your bedroom, you want a hardwired phone. You have to have a phone in your bedroom. You don't want a TV in your bedroom, sorry guys, either because of the electromagnetic frequency. If you have to have a TV because your life depends on it, you have to unplug it at night. So it doesn't keep generating that EMF. So we're going to do one brain balancing method. It's called the alternate nostril breathing. What's it called, guys? Alternate nostril breathing. Thanks. Okay. You say that better than I do. So what this does is it helps activate both parts of your brain, alternating back and forth. I have this in my book as well. Now, you don't have to do it the yogi way and do it with your fingers like this. You can actually just use one side and the other. So we're going to practice together. You're going to occlude one nostril, doesn't matter which one. Okay, you're going to breathe in through that side, hold it, occlude the other, and breathe out through the other side. And then breathe in through this side now. And then breathe out through the other side. And then breathe in through this side now. And breathe out. And once you get the hang of it, you can close your eyes if you want. Breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. Breathe into your belly if you can, and breathe out. That's called yogic breathing. And breathe in. And breathe out. You at home, you're going to be doing this too. Breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. Okay, awesome. You guys did wonderful. Okay, so I want you to, everyone stand up again. I want you to, now we only did a few breaths here, so we're going to try to retest and see. So go ahead and retest each other and see if there is a difference in how you test it. So awesomes, go ahead and test fantastic first. Okay, switch and switch. Switch partners. So fantastic. Go and test. Awesome. And if you're done testing each other, please have a seat.
My name is Richard.
All right, did anybody notice, if they weren't brain balanced before, did anybody notice a difference at all? Okay, a couple people. Awesome, great. You know what I love about that exercise, besides that it feels kind of good, is that it's free. I love free things. That's why we want to give you free gifts. Now, how long does that last? Some people will ask. Well, it kind of depends. It can last anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours, kind of depending on what other stress is going on. So it's not something that unfortunately will last all day necessarily, which is what you want, but still a very useful exercise. You do it every day, as often as you can, especially before bed. That'll be really, really helpful to help your healing process. Now, who are the two people that were backwards? Okay. So what's your name?
Karen.
Karen, do you mind being on camera?
No.
You don't mind? Okay, come on up. Good name, right, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay, so which do you have any shoulder issues? No. Okay, so I'll have you put your one shoulder out for us, or one arm out for us. Yeah. Okay, and resist against me. Okay, so my name is Karen. My name is Karen. And resist. Okay, so she goes weak on Karen. Okay, my name is Bob. My name is Bob. And resist. Okay, so you're weak on that too, but you're a little stronger. That's okay. So let's see. So I have a different tool here. I'm not sure if it's going to work for her, because it kind of depends if she's hydrated. But we have a patch. This is called the Eon patch. It's for stress and inflammation. It's one of my favorite healing tools of all time. It actually works on acupuncture points, and it keeps that brain balance for 12 hours straight. And we have people that sleep with it, or they go to work with it. So James, it's one of his favorite patches. He almost never leaves the house without it. And then I have one pretty much every day as well, especially since I have a lot of sensitivities to the environment. So we're going to see if some of these acupuncture points work for you. I don't know whether it's going to work for you, but we'll try. Okay, so let's see. Let's put one on the upper chest. That's called the thymus point. So we'll have you put your arm back up for us. Okay, and resist. Okay, so go ahead and say what your name. My name is Karen. And resist. Ooh, much better. Okay, my name is Bob. My name is Bob. And resist. Okay, good. Okay, so that one worked for you. Cool, that's cool. The first one we tried, yay. Okay, we're going to try a different point. This is a really good point on the back, GV14, for people with like heat symptoms, neck problems, or hot flashes. So I hear something. All right. So my name is Karen. My name is Karen. And resist. Wow. Can you see? Can you feel the difference? Yeah. You're like super strong. Okay. My name is Bob. My name is Bob. And resist. Okay. Yeah. So, and because it works through crystals and energy, and we'll talk a little bit about how these patches work with the pain talk that I'm going to do. It's quick. It's light. Light works quickly. So that's why we can re-educate her nervous system while she has the patch on to get her balance. Awesome. Thank you so much. Give her a round of applause. Yep, so that's my favorite. Almost everybody who comes to see me who is not brain balanced ends up doing homework. That is their homework, is to do the patch. And we'll test them how long, how often, how many days a week. Some people can only do 6 hours a day because they're so sensitive. Their brain can't shift that quickly. They'll get into detox if they go too quickly. And there's all sorts of blood studies that have been done that have proven that the patch helps to lower or at least regulate cortisol and even inflammation markers. Anybody ever heard of C-reactive protein? Yeah. Yeah. If that's high, this helps to bring it down. Okay, and I think I'm pretty much done here. So just a summary of the lifestyle changes, and just a quick thing about your free gifts. You get the first 6 chapters free online. And you can also get 15% off supplements online as well. And then it's not in your gift bag because my printer didn't print the way I wanted it to. But any new patients is $20 off your first appointment through the end of August. Or if you're already a patient or you want to do the book instead, it's $5 off autographed copy of my book. I don't have any books today to sell. I can't sell anything today. But I just wanted to let you know, more than happy to give you $5 off for that. Excellent. So thank you so much, and thank you, partner, and give them a round of applause. Okay, we're going to actually, I know Marie is going to start in about 10 minutes, and we have a little time for you to stretch, ask some questions, drink some water, which is what I'm going to do. So any questions on this part of the training? So did anybody get completely balanced just with the nostril breathing? Who wasn't balanced? Ooh, a couple of people. Okay, very cool. Now, do you mind if I ask the two people that got completely balanced, do either of you have chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia? Do either of you have chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia?
No.
No? So you're here like as a support person?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And that's what we find too is people with chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia will not correct their brain balance easily on their own without some help, without some outside help. Not to say don't do the alternate nostril breathing, it's still extremely helpful, but you may have to do it a lot and you may need some other help like the patch, because it's like once the system is kind of, the circuits are kind of jangled up, it's hard, and you know, for these two people, they had some stress, but not enough to prevent them from brain balancing with the alternate nostril breathing.
You mentioned gift bags. Is there any extras?
There's no physical gift bags, but there is actually a, Donna can give you a sheet with all the gifts listed. I've signed each of them.
I saw a lot of purple bags. So
Yes. Yeah, we only did the first 30 we had gift bags. We really didn't know how many people were going to show up, so I only asked for 30 from all the organizations. But now we have a virtual one, so you can, you know, grab one of those sheets. And there's also extra brochures that were not included in there over at the table. And in case anybody, you know, needs to get a drink of water, there's some cups here, and there's a sink over there.
Have you ever heard of iRenew bracelet?
What's it called?
iRenew.
iRenew. There's a lot of different kind of bracelets out there.
It's supposed to help with electromagnetic pollution, that kind of thing, help reflect it from your body. And I wear it all the time. I don't know if it really makes a difference. I took it off for the testing. Will it interfere with that?
It shouldn't interfere with the testing.
Because it's supposed to make your muscles strong, but I'm not.
No, you should be able to test your brain balance with it on. It should be fine. The only thing is that, you know, some people ask me about protection devices. I usually like to recommend companies that have real data, so they've done clinical studies. So the 3 companies that are recommended in the book, they've done some double-blind studies. Some of them have done stress studies. Others, for example, the Matrix 2 decreases cell phone radiation by 98% in the iPhone, and I don't know any other product that does that. To that degree, and they're all independently tested. So that's the only thing with that particular device is I haven't looked at the research on that. So feel free to stretch, or if you have any questions, you put up your hand, and you can take a break too at home. The video's running back. If you want, So, being not only because you're seriously, but you really I don't know what because that you can't feel. They're just cheesy. You also can spend tons of money on perfect food, acupuncture, and charges without fixing energy's running backwards. So like instead of that, well, there's lots of there actually that's very true. Is that something that and you never know. Yes. Let's check. So, interesting. Wow, that's amazing. No, you balanced out when I was supposed to. I've never had that happen. Yeah, can we do this? My name is Jason.
My name is Jen. I'm holding it Wow. So as long as you're connected to me, you're good. All right. Okay. All right. No, because I have the patch on and the intention is to heal you. So I'm touching it. I have another one on. Here's healing. But I'm just having the extra one on. You can actually balance it out. So go ahead. My name is Bob. Okay, yeah. So let's check the out. So go ahead and do the right side. Okay. Yes, that there's not different acupuncture points, but that's I've done where I touch something. Thank you. Yeah. No, you were fine. I'm glad you came up and asked. No, but I guess it would make sense if one side is really active, we're balancing both sides. You're supposed to forget one side. That's all I
Because the exercise.
Okay, sorry. So that is they can recall that. Then let me know afterwards. You've got a few minutes, so make sure you need to do a bathroom break or stretch. Do that now. I will talk about that later. Oh, bummer. There's actually my car right there. I don't know. Right, we're almost going to start. There's only a couple minutes left before the break is up. So let's get started with the next presentation. You guys are doing well on the live stream. Actually, Cathy, yeah, my mom did. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Come on over here. We're going to get started actually.
Oh, okay.
All right, everybody, take a seat. All right, we'd like to get started, so if everyone can sit down. Excellent. I don't know if we're missing anyone. My name is Marie. My background is actually in physical therapy, and I moved over into the field of massage about 8 years ago now. And the reason I did that was traditional medicine literally did not make sense to me. I was treating symptoms. People would get better to a certain degree, and then they weren't getting better. And I wasn't satisfied. I knew that there was something more that I could offer, but I didn't know what it was. Throughout physical therapy, I was constantly training in holistic techniques, and eventually just decided that it was time to make the shift. Made the shift. I'm now in Keene, New York, with my own practice, work collaboratively with Karen and many other practitioners in the area, and continue to expand all of my skills. And so one thing I noticed in physical therapy and even now in massage is the techniques that I was using could be very successful within our physical structure. The imbalances were being addressed. But people would get to a certain point and then they would stall. And I was determined I was going to find out, what is that stall point? What is going on in that stall point? And so, how long ago? A year and a half, Karen and I Karen discovered and then shared with me the emotion code. And I realized, aha, this could potentially be the key. So, who experiences emotions every day? In this crowd. Because if you don't belong here. This is not the appropriate time for you. So, okay, everybody I believe does. I think that's safe to assume. And so Dr. Bradley had experienced some of the same, made the same observations and had the same awareness. That his patients would get to a certain point and then they would stall. He happened to take it upon himself through various life circumstances and discovered that emotions played a role in our healing. And he eventually created the body code and then the emotion code. Both are systematic ways of identifying imbalances within our energetic template. So just as we have this physical structure, we also have an energetic template. And what's really interesting about the energetic template is traditional medicine works in our physical structure, which is, Karen and I would classify as sick care. We work with symptoms. Health care, holistic medicine, looks at and focuses what's going on behind the obvious. So, there was a researcher in 1939 using this high imaging photography, Russian scientist, and discovered that there was this plasma signature around living things. His name is Semyon Kyrillian photography. Some of you may have heard of it. So what he discovered is that, here's a plant. Here's the actual picture of the plant, but look at the light, the blue light, the light around the plant. And that's when he began to realize, my gosh, there is a world
behind the obvious structure. So here's a flower. Here's someone's hands. And so here's a picture of what's going on that we don't actually see. Here's another picture of a hand. That's actually an interesting map of the hand and emotions. And Karen was talking earlier about food. Here's a piece of broccoli. So processed foods, you're not going to see this energy signature, this plasma signature. You're not going to see the template. It's void of any energy whatsoever. So based on that, now we start putting some of the pieces together. What are emotions? I'm going to take a little sidestep. We're going to go back and forth here. What are emotions? They're natural responses to a situation, their frequency. So how many of you have ever had the experience where someone says something to you and the words cut like a knife? And how many of you have had a situation, the circumstances were such that it wasn't socially acceptable to process those emotions, and we just stuffed it down. Yeah. That's exactly. When we stuff those emotions down, they become trapped. They become trapped in our tissue. It literally changes the frequency of our tissue. It changes the whole biochemical physiology of our body. Tissues make up organs. The organs become distressed, eventually becomes dysfunctional. Organs make up systems. We have enough organs that aren't carrying their load, they're going to start affecting our overall system, our overall being. And so it's really important to have this image and understand that our trapped emotions can start changing our physiology. If our physiology is starting to change, our template is going to change. Wonderful. Have any of you heard about the experiment with water? Dr. Emoto? Dr. Emoto, Japanese scientist, physician, took a sample of water out of a polluted pond, I believe it was, and then took a sample of water from a majestic mountain stream, froze the samples, analyzed the crystals. The polluted pond water, the crystal form itself was distorted, and it looked terrible. The majestic mountain stream was radiant. He took the water from the pond, the polluted pond, and he projected the emotion of love and gratitude. Looked at it under the microscope, and that crystalline form was just as majestic. It was absolutely beautiful. And that's when he started realizing that emotions, our feelings, have frequency. We project it outward. If a couple people surrounding water, projecting love and gratitude towards water, can create this beautiful crystalline form, our bodies are made up of, is it 60% water?
70%, something like that.
Somewhere around there. What kind of an effect can we have in our body? So, let's see.
So you should be able to click that link.
Yeah. Karen was so grateful, or gracious, to make slides for me because it's completely out of my league.
Because Maria's outside and they you know, she's doing the healthy thing, and that's another excuse for me to work on the computer. I love my electronics.
All right, I guess it's not working.
It's not. Does it say?
Cannot download the information.
Okay. So just cut and paste. Try it.
Okay. Well, we'll see if Karen, this is why I don't do this computer stuff. Oops, sorry. Let's see if we can spell it. While she's working on that, I will move along. Do you need that address? So typically, and normally, we would experience an emotion, and we would process it. And by the simple act of acknowledging an emotion and either reacting or responding to the emotion, that frequency is out of our body. It's not in our body any longer. So, particularly when a emotion is negative, it obviously negatively influences our body. Do we have just that one picture of that crystal?
Yes. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah. So in case we are not able to pull up that link, which I should have tried earlier and I didn't, that
Automatically connected.
that's
Not pasting.
oh, is that what it is? Okay.
But that's okay. I can.
I'm going to be persistent about showing you the specific YouTube video if we can possibly make it happen, because quite honestly, I could not personally find words to describe what the pictures show. So hopefully we can. Do you remember what it was called? Yeah, messages. Okay, here we go. Can everybody see okay? That's the distorted crystal, water crystal, or an example of. So here's the holy water. Just remember what that other water crystal looked like. Just from that dam. same crystal.
Wow.
Thanks, Karen. Do you see how I could never find the words to even try to describe that? It's just so profound. And you had the same response as I did. You can't interact with another person without that just haunting you. You know, how will I affect another person? It's a very profound, at least for me, it was a very profound experience. So, trapped emotions, they be the size of a baseball, cantaloupe size. Obviously, a different frequency to the rest of the body. Typically, they get lodged in the torso, but not necessarily always. Can get lodged in the extremities, but typically in the torso. What's really interesting about the torso, so here's the physical therapist coming out here. Our torso is the only cavity or any only cavity of our body that houses vital organs that does not have a bony protection. Our chest does, our head does, pelvis does, but not our abdomen. Which is a really fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating observation. That occurred to me the other day while I was working on someone. I thought, dang, I had never thought about this before. And they had quite a few trapped emotions within, just underneath the rib cage, and specifically in the respiratory diaphragm. So, how do we identify trapped emotions? Just like Karen used the muscle testing to identify brain balance, we use muscle testing as a tool. And Dr. Bradley created a chart of the 16 most common emotions that get trapped in your body. Now, there are obviously other emotions, but our subconscious is able to funnel that energy into an emotion that is listed on this chart. So we use the chart, we use muscle testing to identify the blocked emotion in a person's body that's ready to be released. And I have no clue what's ready to be released. I'm merely human. I don't have a clue. But our subconscious knows. And I'm going to be getting into, on my next talk, I'll be getting into, my next talk, I absolutely love it. I really have a lot of fun with this. Our next talk, I'll be getting into our conscious and subconscious, but suffice it to say for this, that we think that our brains are where we process all this information, but it's really our bodies. Our brain is just the tip of the iceberg of our capacity to receive information and to process information. And so, and typically, when we feel an emotion, or when we have a response, I should say, have a response to a situation outside of us, we take it in. And typically, if that reaction is anger, fear, defensiveness, that's actually the lower part of our brain reacting to a situation. If we have a response with more compassion, gratitude, etc., that's actually a higher brain function. And again, I'll be getting into this a little more. So on this chart, there are three columns. And the emotion code was actually based on Chinese medicine theory. So on the far left, you'll notice the rows are labeled. And these are actually in accordance to the meridians that are in our body. Meridians are channeling, for those who might not know, are actually channels of energy underneath the skin. These channels were actually mapped out about 3000 BC. And one tip, although on this chart, for example, in this first box, we have these emotions that are associated with heart and lung, small intestine. It doesn't necessarily mean that those 5 emotions listed there are actually trapped in those organs. There's a tendency that it might be trapped along that meridian line, but not necessarily. And then we have the columns. Each box has 5 emotions, and we can literally muscle test. If I was muscle testing someone, which I'll do later, you know, is there a trapped emotion that is ready to be released? And when I'm asking these questions, when Karen's asking these questions, we're really interacting with the subconscious and not necessarily the physical brain. And through muscle testing, we can say, yeah, the trapped emotion is in column A. Is it odd? Is it even? And we start narrowing down on the trapped emotion. Once the trapped emotion is identified, then what we can do is use the governing meridian, which starts at the nose, goes upper forehead, and all the way down to our tailbones. So it's the main meridian that interacts with all the other meridians. So if a trapped emotion is trapped anywhere in the body, we can actually access and release it through the trapped emotion. You know, it's really interesting because trapped emotions, you're really working with that energetic template now, even though it does interface with the physical body and change the physiology, but it's really an imbalance within that energetic template. And so as we're identifying the trapped emotion, what actually happens is that it begins to come to the surface of the skin. Once it comes to the surface of the skin, then we use a magnet. It can be any old refrigerator magnet. Magnets magnify our intention to be able to release the trapped emotion. And so we literally just sweep the meridian, holding the intention that it's going to be released. And particularly people who are very aware of their bodies, very sensitive, very empathetic, they will tell me, you know, I really feel that leaving my body. I feel a lightness. I feel a, and that's always exciting for me to see and hear. There are different types of trapped emotions, and which are, Karen and I find are fun to work with. Believe it or not, a trapped emotion can get so lodged into our physical structure that its signature can be passed on through DNA at the time of conception to an infant, to a fetus. And we can carry that for generations on in. Now, I just recently had a fantastic experience with my mother, who was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And when I went out to help her out, she's completely overwhelmed, beside herself, taking care of her mother, who is 96 years old, living independently, had found my grandmother on the floor. Grandmother was hospitalized, and a decision needed, and was then sent to rehab, and a decision needed to be made. Was my grandmother safe enough to go back into an independent living or not? I met with a therapist, and we all agreed that she was not, that the dementia, especially after this hospitalization, was such that she wasn't safe to go back. And at the same time, my mother's going through this whole being diagnosed with cancer and not telling any of us. And so I am trying to figure out, as I go out to New Hampshire, I'm trying to figure out what is going on with her. And quite honestly, she was rude, she was crude, and she said some really hurtful things. And I'm sitting in the middle of a nursing home thinking, okay, if I don't cry, if I don't have something to let go, these emotions are going to get trapped, and I'm going to have to deal with this. So as I'm talking on the phone with my mother at the nursing home, I'm hearing her, I'm not reacting, I'm listening, but I'm letting the tears flow, knowing that that will help to release the energy that she's throwing at me. When I get home, I think I called Karen, saw Karen, I don't remember, and I said, holy cow. I knew, I was fried. I felt horrible after that visit. And so I sat down and I started doing the emotion code on myself, and one after another after another. And I used to release a lot of emotions in the beginning, but I haven't, I'm talking a dozen or more, and I typically don't do that. They were, interesting enough, they were all inherited, and they were all inherited from my maternal family. So my mother, my grandmother, her mother, it went up the maternal line. A few times it zipped over to the paternal and then came back over, but essentially I had gotten these trapped emotions from the maternal line, so I released them. Knowing full well that as I release these trapped emotions are released from my mother. They are released from her mother, and they are released from anyone else up through the lineage who carried this energy signature in their DNA. Now, it didn't affect my brother and sister. It only affected those who were straight up the family tree, shall we say. So, my mother has surgery, and she calls me just a matter of a few hours after surgery. Hey, Marie, I'm feeling great. You know, I went through surgery, and they had to put me in a funky position, but I'm okay. And she's I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And I'm thinking, my gosh, prior to the last words I spoke with her were all this heaviness, feeling overwhelmed, fear, etc. And then all of a sudden, she is just, yep, I'm going to go garden today, and I'm going to do this, and I did my exercises, yeah, da-da-da-da. And talking about the next stage of treatment, obviously chemo, as if she's planning a vacation. And I thought, what makes the switch like that? It's got to be that releasing these trapped emotions make a difference. Then I found out that there was a complete shift in my grandmother's behavior at the nursing home, and that now, instead of just sticking to her room, she was out socializing with everyone else. And the family, we had made so much effort to try to get her out, meeting other people in the nursing home, and she wouldn't. And suddenly, she is this social butterfly.
That deserves a round of applause.
Wow!
Yeah!
Woo! Yay, Marie! So, that's how powerful the emotion code can be. What's important about trapped emotions, particularly in chronic pain, fibromyalgia scenarios, is, you know, anytime our spinal vertebrae are misaligned, then those signals coming out of the spinal cord, down from the brain, from the spinal cord, into the organs and tissue that nerve root happens to innervate, those messages will get distorted as well. And pretty soon we end up with a body that's not able to compensate for some of the distortions that are going on. What's fascinating is that many times those misalignments in the body, in the vertebrae, I should say, is because of trapped emotions. And so many times, again, that load can be lightened, eased up, so that the pain can start to settle down. So the steps that we use to release the trapped emotions, I always make sure that I'm brain balanced. If I'm not brain balanced, then it'll affect all of the treatments that I do for that day. So I'm, yep. And if I'm not, then I wear an eon patch. And which Karen will talk about later on. And although I was brain balanced, I still wear the eon patch today, just knowing that I was going to be talking to a group, and that's something I do every day. And then the next thing that Karen and I both do is we say, when we get into our sessions, is we say a prayer. My prayer is actually a visualization, and what I envision is that my office is surrounded by angels, spirits, higher beings, whatever name you want to put to the divine energy, but that they're holding hands. And every single person in that circle is holding my clients in my highest and greatest good at the forefront of their thoughts and their feelings, and projecting that towards us, and we're in the middle of the circle, so projecting that towards us. So to not only protect us, but for me to be able to have the intuition and be receptive to any information, any subtle information that I might be picking up, either from a person's body, from my body, or any type of divine intervention. So I always hold that little, shall we say, prayer in mind. Once the emotions are identified, then I typically tell the person it's very important to stay hydrated, it's very important to stay on top of good nutrition, and to get lots of sleep. Typically, people might feel very tired, and they might have a resurgence of the symptoms that they were having, but it's more of an echo. It's an echo of some of the emotions that were released. So there's a little boy that I'm working with, and typically he will actually have tantrums. And it's part of the processing, it's part of his processing. So I always work very closely with his physical body, always staying very alert to, okay, how many emotions can you release that's not going to overload his body in a detox processing, so that he doesn't have tantrums, and so that he can feel more comfortable in his body. So, so why don't we do a session? Who thinks they have a trapped emotion that is needing to be released?
You know, anyone who just jumps right at it. So typically, Marie, this is Sweeta.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So say hi, Sweeta, everyone. Hi, Sweeta.
Okay, now, were you brain balanced?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Karen, where should we?
Oh, you guys are good there. That's perfect.
On which side?
Either side is fine, because they can't really see the chart anyway on the
Okay. So
the live
what I
stream.
want these folks to be able to see. So let me
Oh, okay.
just,
Towards the podium, Suzu.
actually, boy, we can't put two slides up at the same time, huh?
I haven't figured out how to do that.
Okay. So you know what? All right. So you've seen this chart. You have a general idea. This is actually a flow chart that Dr. Brad created. And can you all see this?
Kind of tiny, but
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to follow this flow chart so that you can see. And the reason I'm going to do it very specifically is Dr. Brad wrote a book, The Emotion Code. He's got all the steps in here. So there's no big secret. You can, which is what Karen and I did, we bought the book, independent of one another. We bought the book, we read it, we're fascinated, and then as practitioners we were able to get certified, and we're both certified. But I'll follow this chart so that you're familiar with it. So if you do want to get the book, then this will be familiar information for you. Okay, so we did the muscle testing. Let me get my chart. So let's do this. And you were brain balanced, correct?
yes.
Okay. So, yep, just one arm. So what I'm going to ask is, let me just make sure. I'm going to ask, do you have any trapped emotions to be released? And
Yes.
I didn't even have to muscle test her. She knew. So if it's yes, now we determine the correct column. And on my chart, I'm going to say, is it on column A? No. Is it in column B? Yes. And so once we determine column B, so it's in column B, now I'm going to ask, is it in even row? Yes. Is it in, I don't know if I can do this here. Hold on. Is it in row 2? No. Is it in row 4? No. Is it in row 6? Ah, it says no. When I got all excited about my mother's story, that I forgot to also mention that there is, here you can lecture in for a second, there's another type of trapped emotion, and it's called a psychic trauma. The psychic traumas typically have 2 or 3 emotions that occur at the exact same time. A little more difficult to release, but it is possible. The key to releasing the psychic trauma is that you have to identify all of the emotions. If there are 2 or more emotions at the same time, that means that there's 2 or more balls of energy of a lower frequency that's influencing our body at the same time. So it's going to have a bigger impact on our physiology. So let's just see, is this trapped emotion inherited? No. Is this trapped emotion a psychic trauma? Yes. I believe it's on here somewhere that they talk. No, actually, it's on another flow chart. So let me just move through this just so you can see the process. So is the, are there 2 emotions in this psychic trauma? No. Are there 3 emotions in the psychic trauma? Yes. Is the first one, okay, I'm going to need help with remembering, because I don't always remember. So if everyone can just kind of remind me if I need. Is the first emotion in column A? No. First emotion in column B? Yes. Is it odd row? And you can follow if you can see. No. Is it in an even row? Yes. Is it in 2? No. Is it in 4? Yes. Is it, did you say column B? Yes.
Yeah.
I usually follow with my finger. Is it, so now we're gonna specifically list each emotion. Is it depression? No. Is it frustration? No. Is it indecisiveness? Yes. Okay, so that's the first emotion, indecisiveness. Second emotion, is it in column A? No. Is your arm getting tired? No. Okay. Is it in column B? Yes. Is it odd? No. Is it even? Yes. Is it in row 2? Is it in row 4? Is it row 6? Yes. Is it pride? Is it shame? Is it shock? Is it unworthy? Is it worthless? Yes. So, we have worthless. And what was the other one? Indecisiveness. Indecisiveness. Okay, column, or third emotion. Is it in column A? Yes. Is it odd? No. Is it even? Even. Is it row 2? Is it row 4? Yes, that was strong. Is it anger? Yes. And just go through bitterness. Is it guilt? Yeah, no, it's anger. All right, so we have indecisiveness. We have worthless. And we have, where's my number? Anger. And we have anger. Let's do this. So now that we've identified those emotions, by identifying them, we've actually brought the frequency of that energy, and it's brought up to the surface of her skin. And now what we're going to have her do is hold the magnet, and she's actually going to sweep. And now, now, one thing, let me just ask one more thing. Is there anything else we need to know more of? The answer is no. Sometimes the conscious mind is needing to know more information. So we can literally identify an age, give or take a year. Once a person identifies once we identify the year, then we can start narrowing down. Typically, once the emotion is brought up to the surface, then the person will start having memories. Oh yeah, I remember when. Not needed, but occasionally that will happen. In the next 24, 48 hours, person might be doing dishes or driving, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I remember the situation, and it will literally pop in. So what we're going to have her do is actually sweep, and we're going to have you sweep 12 times. So up and over, correct? And so Dr. Bradley has identified that the magic number for psychic trauma is 12. We will actually go back and ask, has this been released? Sometimes the answer is no. We have to do more sweeps. Karen, was that kind of an intuitive? I don't remember.
It's actually 10 for inherited and 3 for non-inherited.
Right, psychic.
I don't know how we figured that out.
Yeah, I don't know how we figured it out either. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to recheck to see, has this psychic trauma been released? And she's strong. It's been released. And so, yep.
Even though the subconscious mind said she didn't need to know more about it, if you want to know more about it, can you keep going and find out, or it just says no, you don't?
You may be able to, and so I would ask, is it okay to?
Can I do it?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, I'll have you come up on the next. We're going to do something a little different, and I can have you come
Okay.
up. So, may or may not. I have worked with Karen, or I've worked with clients, and I'm sure Karen has as well, where there's been a tremendous amount of trauma. There has been some horrific experiences, and you don't need to relive it. Just release that energy. There's no need. No?
Has this type of therapy been done with people suffering from addictions?
Actually, yes. Yes. With some pretty profound, results. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next part of this whole process, which is really a lot of, this part is, I find actually quite fun. So we as human beings, our hearts, our physical hearts, we're only able to tolerate, I'm going to say 2, 3, sometimes only 1 heartache. Real heartache where it really, whatever a person said or did, it really hurts. And then we put up a protective wall. And so what the subconscious does is it uses the most available resource to create this wall. And the most available resource is trapped emotions. And so it gathers up all these trapped emotions and it uses the energy of the trapped emotions. And the subconscious will literally determine what type of protection that this person needs. So around their heart, which is called a heart wall. For me, I had a heart wall made up of, I love being out in the woods, it was made up of cedar and balsam. My son, who, interesting enough, is a pretty hardcore hotshot Marine, he finally, oh Mom, do whatever voodoo you want. And, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic. He had a cement wall. And I said, and the image I got was a bunker. And he's been in Afghanistan. He's seen some pretty horrific things. And I thought, that was brilliant, using the cement wall. And so, interesting enough, he was actually fascinated with the fact that, he said, oh, I guess I was pretty protected, huh? Yeah, you were, buddy. I've had people, oh, I had a woman, this was brilliant. I had a woman, you know those rolls of plastic saran wrap? Yeah. All the way around. So you could see through it, but she had that protection. So we can literally, through the muscle testing, we can identify heart walls, we can identify what they're made of, we can identify how big they are. The largest heart wall was, the thickest heart wall was 639 miles. And I thought, what? But considering this person's life and what this person is carrying and processing in his life, I thought, that makes a lot of sense. And believe it or not, it only took releasing a couple emotions. It wasn't much. It was under 6. And it got rid of, I think we had gotten it down to about 25 feet just by releasing a few emotions. So that was fascinating to experience. So, you want to come up and we'll see if you have a heart wall? So, again, now were you brain damaged?
No, he came in late.
Okay, so we didn't actually do the, okay, let me just do, and I'm going to do a technique. Okay, let's have you, and what is your name?
Yes.
Okay, say my name is Yusuf.
My name is Weston.
Okay, what I'm going to have you do, hold your arm up and just resist against my hand. So say my name is Yusuf and resist. Resist against my hand. Hold your arm up. Yeah, there you go. And say my name is Yusuf.
My name is Weston.
Okay. And say, holding your arm up tight, say my name is Mary.
My name is Mary.
Okay, good. So, I will actually, here, why don't you come over here and stand here. Perfect. There is, I'm going to take a little side step here. So we can use the traditional muscle testing with our, using the arm. Many of my clients are on my table. And my clients, typically I'm doing craniosacral work, I'm doing myofascial work, I'm doing very specific structural work with them. And I integrate the emotion code into it. So if they're in a very relaxed state, I'm not going to say, oh, can you sit up and let me do the emotion code on you? I don't do that. What we can do, what's available to us is what we call a proxy, where I can literally just have contact with Yusuf in this experience, and I can use a form of muscle testing. I like to use these two fingers, and I resist. So this is my resistance finger, and and my middle finger is my testing finger. And so while they're comfortable on the table, I can become a proxy, and so I can literally say, I am Yusuf, I am Yusuf, I am Yusuf, repeating it until my finger becomes strong. At that moment, I am tapped into his energy. Remember, this is all frequency. This is all energy. It's an energetic template, as we saw. So I can tap into that. So that's what I will use, actually, as I test him. So we're going to ask, let's see, does Yusuf have a heart wall? So you can see that my finger's staying strong. The answer is yes. And we're going to ask, can we know what that heart wall material is made out of? Yes. Is it earth material? Yes. What do you like? Do you like stones? Do you like wood? What are you drawn towards?
Wood.
Okay. Is a heart, typically, heart wall is going to be something that they're attracted to. Is Yusuf's heart wall made out of wood? Yes. Is there a particular tree you like?
Bamboo.
Okay. Is his heart wall made out of bamboo? It is, and typically it will be. It will be exactly what they're drawn to. Now, let's see how far, how wide this heart wall is. Is it more than 12 inches? Yes. Is it more than 10 feet? Yes. Is it more than 20 feet? Is it more than 50 feet? Is it more than 100 feet? More than 200 feet? Is it more than a quarter of a mile? More than half a mile? More than a mile? More than 5 miles? 10 miles? Is it more than 15 miles? More than 20? More than 50? More than 60? More than 75? More than 100 miles? Okay, we're at 100 miles here. Is it more than 200 miles? More than 300 miles? More than 400 miles? Okay, so we know it's between 300 and 400 miles. Is it 350 miles? Is it greater than 375? No. Is it 360 miles? Yeah, I haven't hit it. So 360 miles. Now, because it's a frequency and it's an energetic template, I can actually feel, and you might be able to feel it as well, I can literally feel that heart wall. There's a density in the air around here that's more so than around the rest of his body. When the heart walls are within inches, I typically will show my client, we'll test and see exactly where it is, but I'm not going out 360 miles, so I'm going to stay in this room. So let's just see, are there any trapped emotions ready to be released from the heart wall? Yes. And so again, I'll use, is it in column A? Yes. Odd? Yes. Is it in row 1? Is it in row 3? Yes. Is it crying? Discouragement? Yes. And then we ask, is this Yusuf's? Yes. Because it is his emotion, he did not inherit it from any other person, we're going to have you sweep 3 times. Perfect. And now we're going to see, is this trapped emotion been released? The answer is yes. So now let's see, with that trapped emotion being released, let's see if your heart wall is
Small.
right, if it's a little closer to Saranac Lake. Is it less than 360 miles? Yes, less than 300. Yes, less than 250. Less than 200. Less than 150 miles. Less than 100. Less than 50. Less than 25. Less than 10. Less than 5. Ooh, okay, is it 5 miles? This is 6 miles. So it's now about 6 miles. He is now officially in Serenade Lake.
Wow!
So then I would tell him, make sure you drink lots of water, get some sleep, and rest. And that you might feel tired. You might feel out of sorts in the neck. Do you feel dizzy? Right now?
I'm not very good.
Okay.
In between.
In between? Okay. Yeah. So have you had any water recently? Yeah, so I think you're needing some water. So there's some cups right there, and then there is a sink right through that door. You're very welcome. Nice job. You're all right. So now what will be key is I tapped into his energy. I'm wanting to get out. And so I will say, my name's Marie, my name's Marie, my name's Marie, until it gets the absolute strongest. And so I know I have disconnected from him. And now I can move into the next moment being myself. Does anybody have any questions about the emotion code demonstration?
So if somebody had a heart attack, is it likely that they have a heart wall?
Yes.
What percentage of people have a heart wall? Do you know?
Oh, what was it? It's like 90?
Yeah, 93.
93% of the people have heart walls. Typically, this is let me just say, thank you for reminding me. When we have a heart wall, just imagine us as candles, with this brilliance. Think about the energetic template. Think about those water crystals. Think about our perfection. Our energetic template, without the distortion, is our absolute perfection. It's our, and with that perfection, we go out in the world and we shine our light for the ultimate goal of being able to influence other people, to help each other along. I think of us as we're angels for everybody else, helping us along in this earth. Sometimes we don't have some nice jobs that, the jobs are not ideal and they're not pretty, but nonetheless, we impact other people's lives and their worlds. If we have these 360-mile thick heart wall, how the heck are we going to influence other people? How is our light going to shine? It's not. When my heart wall was released, what I found was I had even more compassion for people, more understanding, but most importantly, I did not react. When my mother said to me, Marie, I wish you hadn't come, you created more work for me, I'm overwhelmed, it is on and on and on, I didn't react. I didn't take it personally. I immediately said, oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. I may have misunderstood. Were you venting just for the sake of venting, which is very legit, or were you expecting action? I thought you were expecting action. And she stopped in her tracks in that moment and said, oh, I guess I was only venting. I would have reacted. I would have hung up the phone, whatever I would have done. I don't react anymore. I have much more tolerance. I have much more patience, much more understanding. Intuition is even higher off the scale than it was before. I'm not hiding anymore. I don't need to hide anymore. There's a tool to be able to release some of those hurtful memories and hurtful energies that are stored in our body. So, like I said, Dr. Bradley has a fantastic website. He sells his books. You can get his books through Amazon. You can read the book. You can start doing this on yourself. What Karen and I have discovered, we do it on ourselves every day, but yet I will say, oh, you're right, muscle tested, or I did a motion code on myself this morning, and Karen will do a motion code on me, and all these emotions come out that I didn't have access to, but an objective person did. So it's a great tool to use on ourselves, but sometimes really helpful to have. Yeah, to have another person. Yep.
Do you have time where I could try?
Yeah, later on. I'm actually out of time, or just about out of time.
Did you have a handout for people, or?
No, not
No,
on this one.
oh, not on this one.
Yep. So, if nobody has any questions, we're going to have questions and answers later on, a questioning session, or if we're on break, feel free to stop me and ask.
Awesome.
So, thank you.
So we're going to go right on Cathy's bone broth, making bone broth. If you need to stretch, feel free to walk around, while we get set up. And if you need to go to the washroom, just come back real quick. I'll get Cathy set up here.
I got cut it up. I got so fine it up. Who's Tommy? Can't call me out. And the answer that's good, awesome, good son of this. It's 12 years. No, 13 years, I'm here. I'm still scared. My neighbors, I'm still
I'll be right back.
I'm so much. I mean, I'm fine right now, but I'm thinking, why?
Break.
I'm
Then
scared.
we'll start with the next presentation. So we need to, if you're this at home, might get a drink of water, take a little
I'm
break,
missing the whole thing.
come back in 2 minutes.
All
All right? Thanks for watching.
Yeah, you might find that all changes.
So it'll be interesting.
See the whole thing?
Yeah.
I had a read no, there's a lot of things that I was trying to do.
Long breath of life.
And this is different.
So if so read the emotions or
He won't.
Right.
And actually,
It's family, and I was going to talk to the person about it.
The thing is, you know, you can do it at a distance. For example, they give you permission. You can say, well, can we spend 10 minutes of my time working on that? So I have right. And so then we work 10 minutes. I just want to do something. And if they want to quite consistent, but you know, we can just work on that issue, and we can't just use recipes. So we don't the kids a lot. Right. So they don't physically have to come in, you know, that way. Oh, absolutely. Really? Yeah. That cuts a lot of time. This is yes, it is. So, but it's just layered. So, well, yeah. Yeah, actually, there was one lady who was so really I don't know you know, still, you know, so, yeah, several times in but she said, last time I asked her, she said, I mean, that wasn't the only thing he was doing. Right. Oh, no. I showed this to him times. And he showed up to work. He hasn't lost his job yet. Since we only worked, I think, 2 or 3 times on him. But he's not doing success anymore. He's kept his job. He's coming in. He's not just not showing up. So it took us, you know, until the 3rd one just to really see the big shift. Wow. It was kind of cool. Yeah. Go to any rehab or something, so it's on. Because there's tons of people that they have to, you know, they have to have a heart wall. No, heart wall usually takes 5 sessions. 3 to 5 sessions. Really? Yeah. But you know, working on a particular issue like addiction or something like that, there could be multiple layers. You know, usually you see something within a few sessions. It's something like brighter, or you know, something different in what plays, or you know, so I'm just not as interested in whatever. So, and you know, smoking is the most common one that we have. And, yeah, the last person I did was just like, you know, I've had no cravings at all. Of course, we have acupuncture other things too. She was really shocked. She, you know, was actually so shocked that she was like, she could have just put it down. People don't realize what we need to recognize. I don't understand.
Okay, everybody, come on back in. We got to start. We're a little late here. You're gonna eat lunch through our talk. Oh, okay. Okay, so so next is Cathy Hohmeyer. So she's the chef at the Lodge at Lake Blair. She's also the chapter leader for the Weston Price Foundation. And she's an expert on how to make bone broths. So welcome, Cathy. She just go. Oh, Cathy's there. Okay. Sorry.
Well, hi, everybody.
Hi.
I may not be able to stay till the end, possibly yes, possibly no. But I just wanted to acknowledge the awesome information that you guys are getting today from Karen and from Marie. I think what's happening is we are discovering how multidimensional we are. We always say we're mind, body, spirit, but we're finding ways to work that. It's not all mind, it's not all body, it's not all spirit. And they're really giving you some tools to empower yourself. When I walked in the room, I saw a friend I hadn't seen for a long time. They said, well, you know, we do all this stuff. Why can't we just get better? And it's discovering all these avenues to release one, to heal the other, whether it's with diet, to release an emotion, and then you can heal whatever it was that hurt you inside. So it's really awesome information. I want to give these guys awesome stuff. Anybody who's been on this path for a while just keeps going and going and going, and ends up just learning all this. And for them to put something like this together in one afternoon, I think it's amazing. So I'm going to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
I am going to try very hard, after I heard all this stuff, I'm going to try very hard to stay with bone broth. because there's a million other things I'd like to say about food that relates to what they've said as well. But I'm going to try very hard to stick with bone broth because it's one. How many people cook in here? Or actually, let me ask the other question. How many people don't cook? Okay. There's, yeah, I live in my kitchen, but in a minute I'll tell you a bit more. But because this is one thing that you can actually take home and do, whether you can really cook or not. It's super nourishing for every part of you. So with that, I'll get going. But I just wanted you to know you're getting such awesome information here to empower yourself to get better. So it's really good. Is it just the down arrow here? Mm-hmm. Okay. A little bit about myself. I see a few faces in here that I know, but not too many. I own the Lake Lodge and Retreat. I was an occupational therapist. I still keep my license. I don't practice as an OT per se. I got into occupational therapy and really got interested in sensory integration and working with kids with autism, and that's when when I started in, that's first when it really started. And I really questioned all that, and I did specialize in that for a little bit. Oddly enough, now I'm doing healing diets for those types of populations. So I never intended to get into all this food business, but apparently that's where I'm supposed to be, so that's where I am. I'm also a Weston Price chapter leader. I'll tell you a little bit about that later, and I would love to tell you tons. I'm going to try and skim through that a little bit, just because it does relate to all our topics here. But that's one thing I do teach out at the Lodge, is about nourishing traditional foods, and I'll tell you about that later. So I do kind of consider myself a real food chef. I try and do the best I can with food quality. When you can't, and then you just intend, just like you intend the love into your food. So you do the best you can with budget, and then go from there. But don't get all stressed out about, oh my God, I couldn't buy this organic today, or whatever. It's the best thing to do for the planet, whatever else. But don't stress about it. Do the best you can when you can. And because I also cook food, I got into the energetics of food and all that sort of thing. I thought, well, what about this raw food stuff? And I tried raw for a while, and I just disintegrated. So I probably wasn't doing it right, but I wanted to get the most energy out of my food. With all the things that Karen said to begin with, all the toxins, the chemtrails, everything we're being bombarded by, it almost feels impossible to get above the line. There's a gentleman that I just came across, and I can't even tell you his name, but I saw him on the internet, on some YouTube, and he was telling us that whatever is created, like chemtrails or whatever, negatively, there's also a positive side created that you can combat that. And I was actually watching something on sourdough and cultured foods. So take that, into anything you want to. So I thought that was really interesting. But anyway, so I got into the raw foods nutrition idea because I think there's a balance there. A lot of people who are vegan and vegetarian that I know have tended to come back to more, meat-related or more of a balanced type of diet in that respect. Is there anybody here who's a vegan or vegetarian? No, okay. Because I would say we'll get that kind of out of there, because I'm not talking about the raw diets, the vegan, vegetarian. Those are something that work for some people and have a kind of a total different premise. We're obviously talking about bone broth, so we're talking about animals here. So these guys get to talk about all these really fun and new age stuff, but I get to talk about the old stuff. And no, I'm not going to talk about dinosaurs, but I am going to talk to you a little bit about the background of how we know that bone broth is good for you and what happened in the past. Everybody knows that soup is good for the soul. That's not a question anymore because there's so many books on it, the chicken soup, this whole thing. But that's pretty much a given. So yes, we're talking soup, we're talking bone broth, and a little bit beyond. So to keep on topic and not keep going up, homemade bone broth base, properly prepared, and you can use chicken or other poultry, fish, beef, lamb, don't forget all the good stuff. Is just a storehouse of nutrients which are liberated from the bone, skin, and connective tissues of the animals that are prepared. It's the ultimate mineral supplement, so if anything else, remember that bone broths are chock full of minerals. And the nutrients accelerate overall healing and supports our bones, as well as a whole lot. Everybody has something to write with. If you don't fret about it. It doesn't really matter. But if you write this down, you're going to remember it. I'm actually going to have you do a drawing, okay? I want you to do a little drawing, kind of like that of yourself. Leave plenty of space in the abdominal area because we're going to put a stomach and intestines in there. Okay, so everybody, you can just quickly do an outline. You want to leave it a little open in itself because you want to put some bones. You want to put your skeleton if you can. Maybe just draw circles with lines. It doesn't have to be, nobody's going to look at it or anything. Just draw some circles with lines for your bones. You even want to put some fingernails and toenails in there. You want to put your stomach, and you want to put your intestine. You want to put your brain, and even your lungs. Okay, so we're going to do a diagram something like that. Yeah, you can keep on working with that, but I didn't know what these folks were. I knew what Marie and Karen were going to talk about in general, but not in specific. But I want to put a halo on your body to show that there's more of a mind-body-spirit connection, and that you're all awesome. And again, with what Karen was saying, with all the stressors, the emotional stressors, the physical stressors, I hate the word stress, so I'm going to call it the heebie-jeebies. So we just want to decrease our heebie-jeebies, okay? And all those things that you just put in your body, all those things that I mentioned, are good for bone broth. Bone broth is good for it. So it's really awesome stuff. Like I said, even if you don't cook, do bone broth. Little background on the Weston Price Foundation. This was a study of food and nutrition that was done years ago, 30s, 40s, 50s. It's a one-of-a-kind study and is never going to be able to be repeated, I don't think. Weston Price was a dentist. He was looking at people's teeth and their oral care declining, their oral health. So he decided to travel the world for 10 years and find all these populations around the world not touched by, well, really indigenous and really, well, just really healthy people. He didn't really care where they were. He just wanted to find healthy people. So he traveled around. He went to Alaska. He went to Swiss Alps. He went to Africa. He literally covered the globe in 10 years, 12 different populations for the most part, and he first looked at their oral health, took a lot of pictures of teeth, found very quickly that if they had really nice teeth, they were pretty healthy. So what he started with teeth pretty much went to overall health as he went along. And then he really studied the food they ate. And that was really his premise. And he found out that even though the Eskimos and the Africans were eating totally different types of food, their preparations were the same in a lot of different areas. And again, that's another huge topic that I would love to elaborate on because I just think it's fascinating. I'm going to keep going, but I just want to keep that in mind. As process was developed and lives changed, we've lost much of that knowledge of preparations. I'm not even talking about the foods we eat, the preparations. Karen mentioned sourdough bread before. We've done different things with our grains. There's all this gluten business going on, and again, total topic for another huge day. But the way that populations made sourdough bread decreased the gluten, and again, they had a different wheat. They didn't have all the toxins. But the way they made that bread was with consciousness, and it was with special preparations that kept your intestines a little. It was just easy to digest. And we're doing it differently now for a lot of different reasons. So, in summary, Dr. Price found healthy bodies, like super healthy bodies, healthy teeth. There was no degenerative diseases. Children were smiling and they seldom cried. There was no mental conditions, and the populations he found were just ecstatically healthy. Now, again, think of all the things that they didn't have that we do now overall in our air, our water. They were eating grass-fed meats. They were growing crops on their land and in the soils that were a little bit more mineralized. But that's why I think we need to go back to learning these preparations even more, because we have so far back, to go. The other quality of their food preparations are, if we take something, bring it from this, it's plucked from the ground, put in the store, on the shelf for a while, we take it to our kitchen and we cook it, and pretty much kill out all the enzymes, because enzymes pretty much blow up at about 180 degrees. And we pretty much cook and kill the food that we're eating for the most part, unless we're eating raw, and that's where all that, I think, it really comes in, is with not getting the energetics out. But what we've been doing is pretty much cooking and killing our food for the most part. The process, for sure, everybody's aware of that. In many cases, in the Western price populations, the way they prepared their food actually increased the nutrients in their food, not decreased them. So, and there was 11 different principles that he found. Now, this is like I said, he took a lot of pictures, and I never understood the kind of the ugly things he took, but this is a really cute one. The guy on the right, see the full, how many people have braces? I mean, tons of people with braces, or have to have teeth out, there's not enough room in your mouth. The child on the right there has eaten a traditional foods diet. He's got a full round face. He's got room in his face for his teeth. The guy on the left has started more of a processed food kind of, mainstream diet that we would consider now. And look at the thinness of his face, his teeth structure, and all we can see is obviously their heads. But, I mean, he still looks, he's functional. I'm sure he's a happy, healthy little kid, but totally different than the guy on the right. And that picture was pretty dramatic. So he did discover these 11 healthy principles, or principles of a healthy diet. I'm not going to go through the first ones because that's not the topic. Again, I'd love to talk about those anytime. I highlighted the one down below. All traditional cultures make use of animal bones, usually in the form of gelatin-rich bone broths. So he found that out ages ago, that bone broths were good, and that populations all over the world, for whatever reason, and at the time didn't have the science to test all this, they made the use of, well, they made use of every part of the animal, but the bones in particular were something that they really made sure that they just didn't throw the dogs, which is what we do now. So nutrition can be one of part of the healing process, and there's many diets to choose from, and I think it's different for everybody, wherever you're coming from, whatever you like, how much you cook, all that sort of thing. And most target the digestive system now with the new material that's coming on, leaky gut, mostly, well, I'm going to get into that in a minute, so I'll keep on the bone broth and the diets. Bone broths being the most common to all healing diets that I've studied, and I've looked at a lot. That's just one of the common things that they say you can do. And it's the easiest and least expensive that you can do. And it's the most nourishing for total overall body. Why? Well, in a couple of words, minerals and gelatin. You get a lot of minerals out of the bones when you make soup, when you make stock. These days, I think a lot of people make soup, but they forget the first part, which is what I'm talking about today. You've got your bones, your cartilage, your skin, and don't forget your marrow, because that's really good too. When you cook that down, it turns all that collagen in an animal, and I think I read the stats, and I didn't write them down, but it's something like an animal is 60% collagen, but only like a very tiny percentage of that collagen is in the meat. We're pretty much eating the lean meat and not taking advantage of the rest of all the parts of the animal. The gelatin, the collagen turns to gelatin, which I'm just going to refer to as jelly, just because it's a lot more fun. It's easily digested right in your intestines, and it takes off the stress. So all of a sudden, you get bone broth, and your intestines just stop a little bit of the heebie-jeebies that are going on in the rest of the world. One of the buzz conditions, I suppose you can call it a condition right now, is called leaky gut. It's being, well, blamed. It's a different word. but that is being shown to be a factor in a lot of our diseases that we just can't figure out. They call it leaky gut. I don't like that term, so I'm just going to call it holy belly. leaky gut, I like the term gut. I like belly better, and leaky is better. But what they're saying is all these toxins are, and I'm not going to go into a lot of the specifics again, because I'm trying to get you to the end to give you some tips on bone broth, you know, and producing it. But what they say are our intestines get inflamed, it causes holes in our little villi and everything inside. A lot of our toxins or our body itself starts fighting each other, and it gets through and into the bloodstream, and that's where we get all sorts of reactions. That's it in a really simple nutshell. And then it goes through and it causes problems all throughout the rest of the body. So gelatin can help heal your holy belly. Right away when that goes into your stomach, it can start to heal those little holes that have developed and make you feel, I mean, gelatin is soft and gushy anyway, so I'm sure that's not surprising. You want a really good belly. You want a holy belly. You want one that takes care of the toxins that come in, because when you're healed, for the most part, we can do all that. We were made to take care of the toxins that come in and to pass them through and have everything wonderful without affecting the rest of our system. So jelly in your belly is going to help your holy belly and into a good one. So when you go to the hospital, everybody's been to the hospital. What's one of the first things they have on a tray?
Jello.
Jello. And usually it's the brand Jello. Well, if they switched out their Jello with gelatin, it would be fantastic all on its own. But that's where it came from. Gelatin was healthy. Gelatin was wonderful. And it's found its way into hospitals, but it's changed, obviously, its form into a sugary, color-laden sort of thing. So just to recap the benefits of gelatin and broth, it's easily digestible because of the amino acids. It's got lots of minerals. Gelatin improves digestion by stabilizing stomach acid, and these are just a few. It's anti-inflammatory, not only for colds. Chicken soup, it's always thought of with a cold, and your respiratory, but your overall body. And it's also hydrating. Everybody says to drink lots of water. Well, I really don't like drinking water, but I do like drinking the bone broth. And there's many, many more reasons. So here's the no heebie-jeebies way to make bone stock for you non-cooks. Place bones in a large pan, add your veggie scraps, and maybe a bay leaf. Cover it with water. You want the minerals to leach out of the bones, so add a little vinegar or tomato juice or something acidic. Simmer it for anywhere for 6 to 72 hours. Strain, sip it, or make soup out of it. And simplicity, that's all you really need to do. You can refine as much as you want, but just do it. Just start to do it, and don't get hung up on, well, do I do it this long, that long? What do I put in there? Just start doing it. You can make a soup, or you can add all this stock to sauces. There's plenty of other things you can do with it, which I'll tell you later. Don't just think about soup. You got to think, out of the can, a little bit out of the box. Some people get hung up on the broth and stock stuff. That's just a definition there. But like I said, you just don't fuss. Just get some good bones, the best you can. The best are going to be from pastured animals. If you can't get that and you're getting them just in the grocery store, do that. And the trick for you guys is, if you know people who are getting pastured animals and they're not getting their bones, get the bones. They're the best thing going. You can also, what I do I do get some whole animals, but I have them cut it. They always want to know how I want it cut. I make them cut everything with everything that I can with the bone in, because then I'm sure I'm getting those bones and not bones from, you just never know where you end up sometimes. So buy meat with a bone in. We all buy boneless, skinless chicken breast. Well, there's no bone in there to save, so you can make some beautiful bone stock. So also think out of the box in terms of buying boneless chicken breast. Buy the whole chicken. And in a minute, I'll tell you my 3 steps while I do a whole chicken. It's pretty easy. Save all your veggies. You can put some of it in the compost, but if there's pieces that we're going to throw out anyway, and they're just not good enough to eat, save everything. You have got so much extra food right in your kitchen right now that you might not even be using, and you just need to be creative about it. So with bone broth, stocks, and soups, this is a little bit of outline what I'm going to go through next. And I'm going to breeze through it, and then we can do, if we have time, we can do kind of questions and answers sort of thing. Because I realized 2 days ago, I have been cooking at the Lake Claire Lodge for 25 years. And it kind of threw me overboard. I went, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I'm in the kitchen. But one saving grace is, for 25 years, I have been serving bone broth soups in my kitchen at every meal. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it was worth something after all. And there's different ways to do things in crock pots, in stoves, oven, you know, they all go through. So chicken broth, pretty much chicken broth is the most common thing to do. It's cheaper, it's pretty easy, the bones are pretty thin, so you can get a lot of good stuff out of it. You can use a whole chicken. You can use chicken bones that you can buy. I have a source of chicken bones, really inexpensive, they're pastured. And that's what I'm going to tell you a little bit down below. Chicken feet. If you know people who have chickens, I know it sounds gross. I see a face in the front here. I know it sounds gross, but they have the most gelatin in them, and they're being thrown away or ground up, or I don't know what people do with their feet. Get the feet. You really want those. Chicken is a little. You don't have to simmer it for too long because it does have the thinner bones. A couple of hours, you get some good stuff. So again, if you only have a few hours and you want to do something quick, go ahead and do it. But just keep making it. You can actually make a continuous broth. Don't. They have, especially with beef, they actually have a continuous bone broth soup going, and they just keep adding and taking out and adding. What I do with my bones is, well, if I started with a whole chicken, I might even do that if I knew I was using the whole chicken and I wanted it cooked in water rather than boiled or something. Put it in a pot and cover it over. If you have vegetable scraps, that's great. If you don't, well, later on, but at least you're making the broth. Bay leaf is great. I always love bay leaf. I can tell when it's out. It just adds good stuff. Cayenne is actually good for fibromyalgia and diseases like this too. So add a little cayenne either to your soup when you're finishing. If you like some spicy, that's usually a good thing. So you're going to simmer. You're going to simmer once. And usually, let me start with the bones with a little bit of meat on, because that's the way I can get them, and a little easier, more explainable. You start that in a pot. I simmer. I don't want that meat to be overcooked, so I might simmer it half an hour, or something on low. Try not to get your water too high. Again, there's the whole energetics of the water. Some say it's going to be just the hotter, the least hot, the better. Put it that way. Just keep it at that. If it boils and boils, well, that's okay. Don't start fretting about it. So now that you're boiling it, maybe, I don't know, like I say, 20 minutes, an hour, or whatever. Take it out, strain it. Then I take the meat off. And depending on how much meat is on there, it's going to take how long to cook. So if I just have a little, I strain it out, I cool it down enough so I can take the meat off, then I have some great meat, maybe for a chicken salad, to put back in your soup, whatever you want it for. I put the bones back in and then go longer. Add a little bit more vinegar, which I probably don't do the first time because I really am just trying to cook that meat off, and I don't want to waste that and overcook it and just have it kind of dry and terrible. So add a little vinegar, a little tomato paste maybe, depending on what you're going to do with it later. Cook it a little longer. You can put it in a crock pot. You can put it on your stove. You can actually put it in your oven if you want to, and I'm going to show you how, or tell you how I do duck in the oven, which is like super simple. And then just let it go. And then depending on how many bones I have, I'll let it go. I'll strain it again, so I'll have a second straining. And I'll have that, and if I think I'm still getting some good stock and bones, or a stock out of that, I'll add more water and let it go again. Because you can't really do anything. You want the minerals out of those bones, so use up what you can and keep on going. With beef, Usually it's just the bones, because that's what we can get. There is a continuous bone broth method online, or that I can tell you about, where people just kind of keep throwing it in and taking it out. If you have some thinner beef bones, then that's going to be a little less time. But if you really get, I had really huge knuckle, and put it in my crock pot, and I think that went for 3 or 4 days at least. You can keep taking water out, putting water in, add a little tiny bit of vinegar maybe again for the acid to get all those minerals. You want those minerals, and you want the gelatin to all leach out. And don't forget your lamb and other birds. Pork, oddly enough, in the Weston price is not even mentioned. And that was questioned a long time ago, but I don't, if you eat pork, go ahead and use your pork bones. There's nothing wrong with it. There's still going to be gelatin and minerals in all those. And I had a little note there, which I already told you, get the bones from your friends if they're not using them, or tell them that they should, but they have to share. So this is what I do with duck. It's like a super easy way to get a great meat. Duck is really nutritious. To get great stock that's full of gelatin. Now this is what I have over here too, and I froze it. And I roast the duck. I take a whole duck, not even cut. It comes whole. Put it in a pan. I usually do 2 at a time. Put it in a pan. The pan pretty much needs to fit the duck, so you don't want it in a huge one, and this is just kind of water ratio type of thing for me. So put it in a pan. Even if you have 1 duck, just put it in a smaller pan. So where there's going to be maybe 2 or 3 inches in the bottom of your pan of water, you're going to throw it in the oven at 350 for about 2.5 hours. All that good stuff in the duck is going to go right into the water. When it's done, just lift your duck out and then put it in a tall container, because what you're going to get not only is the duck stock, is also the duck fat, which is a really healthy fat. And let it cool. Strain it into your container, put it in the fridge, let it cool, and then take all that fat off, put it in another container. Fried potatoes, whatever you want to use with it, but it's a really good fat to use. It's really good fats. In the bottom, you're going to have Jell-O. I mean, the easiest way that I've ever gotten Jell-O in my broth, because it can be over diluted, it can be whatever. You don't always get Jell-O, in your broth, but it's still all there. With roasting a duck this way, I get it every single time. I can dish it out like a bowl of Jell-O. Now, this tends to be a really strong taste, the gelatin, because it's very concentrated. So that I put in ice cube trays, and you can freeze it that way. I'll put an ice cube tray, let it gel, and then I take it out of the ice cube trays, put the ice cubes in my freezer. If I want to add taste or flavor to something, I can throw in a duck stock cube. If I want to just get gelatin in that and minerals in something else like a spaghetti sauce or something that's not going to be too offset by duck flavor, I throw it in the sauce. I've thrown out a lot of duck stock and fat in my day until I found out that I really should do that. So again, do the best quality you can. Good, better, best is what I always try and say. Get it from pastured, clean meat animals. Good water, the best water you can. The best veggies you can. Use organic if you can. With lower gluten additives to your soup once you make soup. And don't fret. Like I said before, you can put intention into your food. There was a book that I read years ago, Feeding the Body, Nourishing the Soul, and that was really, it was this thick. Can you write on that? But it's this thick. So intention, and it had a lot of in it, like the Emoto information, everything. So don't forget you can intend in your food. In my kitchen at the lodge, some of my pots, I'll take a marker and I'll just write nice little words on my pots that I do my food in. Because as much as I try to intend it in something like the lodge and where I'm cooking, it's a really stressful cooking situation. So I'm conscious of that, going, oh my God, I'm getting all crazy. Okay, just settle down and whatever, because I know that intention is probably going into that food. And when I've got 10 orders up trying to get them out, and people are staring at you, it's a really stressful one. So I try to be conscious of that. Somebody told me to hum in the kitchen. If I just start getting stressed, just start humming, and it'll be better. Another easy dinner. My kids are all of a sudden into Japanese food. So, you can get the terrible ramen noodles at the store, and they love to do. I'm like, no. So I'll take one of my chuck steaks with a bone in it. Simmer. I'll just put it in a frying pan. It doesn't matter if it's a stock pan. Doesn't matter if it's a frying pan. Just put it in a pan on the stove, and I simmer it maybe for 2 to 3 hours to get. What I'm looking for is to pick the grass-fed. A little longer simmer to get it tender, and then I'm leaching out the minerals and the gelatin out of that bone. There's sometimes not a whole lot of bone in there, but I know I'm getting my bone. I'm not just making a stir fry with some new meat that I just cut up and some water and soy sauce or something. So I'm looking for all that yummy juice. Add vegetables. Strain your juice out. Let's see, how do I do this? Strain the juice out. Add your veggies to the juice, and as they cook, kind of cut up your meat. And then sometimes I'll even strain that again and make the noodles in that juice, and then put it all back together in a bowl. And then you've got juicy ramen noodle with veggies and meat that's a little bit better than the one you buy in the store. I've been doing this just recently, and the kids just literally eat it up. I mean, every pun intended. They're just, so that's how I found a way to kind of get from the ramen noodles bowl in the store that they will buy if they're hungry to something like this. And you can freeze it. Make up these bowls and just put them in the freezer. Preferably don't microwave it when you get it out, but just heat it up on the stove. And add your stock to everything that you think of. Even if I have a friend who always cooks good food, but when she's in a pinch and she has a can of soup, she'll just use stock with her can of soup. Not super wonderful, but better than just the can. So if it's even only that you do, that's a good thing. Like I said, spaghetti sauce. Of course, when you do a roast of turkey, you've got all that juice, and when you do with it, you make gravy. I think that's the one time, probably one time out of the year, maybe. Now that I'm just thinking of that, everybody makes bone broth stocks with it, and gravies and sauces. You can also cook your rice, your beans, anything in that juice, but use that juice. If you aren't making stocks that time or something, and still want more in your system of the gelatin, there is a couple of different alternatives that you can use. I have one can here, which is Great Lakes gelatin. It's considered to be a high-quality gelatin made from the real thing. A lot of the other gelatins, you have to look into them. They exist, but they aren't made with the bones and don't have the rest of all the goodies. They're usually made from hides and other stuff that you really don't want. You can get gelatin from other things. You want it from, good animals with all the minerals and everything in there. So this is tasteless. You can add it to smoothies. You can make, though there's two different ones. One, they call it the green can and the red can. The green can, this is the green can. It doesn't gel, but it's still gelatin. So you can add it to smoothies. I am a terrible person and still drink coffee. If I would have been, I never go to doctors yet, but if I did, I probably would have been diagnosed years ago just with, you're just done for chronic fatigue something. Homeschooled kids run, a restaurant 24/7 and a lodging 24/7, and I am on my feet. So I just do that, and I used to sip coffee just to keep going. I hate feeling tired, so I used to sip coffee. I have to admit, right now I put this in my coffee because I'm trying to wean myself off, and I'm just getting to the point, not just with this, but with other things that I'm doing. I'm just getting to the point where the coffee is actually affecting me again. So I'm considering that a good thing and going, okay, this is all working. And the other day I didn't even want coffee until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that is one of my terrible vices that I still do because I really like coffee. There is a vegetarian alternative called agar-agar. So there is a gelatin. It's probably good for your intestines and everything in there. It's not going to have all the minerals and bones, but it's made out of seaweed. So I don't know that much about it, but I thought I would mention it. because there are different things. Okay, so with the red can, or with your, well, not so much with your bone stocks, I suppose, but with the red can, there's still other things you can do without having the meaty flavor. You can make gummies. There's lots of recipes online now to make gummy bears with the good gelatin, without the jello. So how easy is that to transfer your kids from the really good gelatin to, from the gummy bears, the sugary gummy bears, to really good gelatin. Aspects are coming back into vogue now, I see, and hopefully it's because we're starting to use more of the gelatin. Remember years ago I went to Thanksgiving dinner and there was always a tomato aspic. Anybody remember that?
What is it?
Aspic, just a gelled salad.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, but tomato aspic was one. But that's because years ago people used to use all their good gelatin, and we've gone out of that mode. The other thing, just to mention, that doesn't have anything to do with bone broths, is with culture. How many times have you seen a condiment tray, especially when you went to older people's house? There was always a condiment tray. I'm like, what's with the stupid condiment tray? Well, they had good pickles years ago. It helped you digest the food you were eating. Now we're eating the canned and processed pickles, and sometimes we make our own, so that's all good, but if they're not probiotic, they're not helping you. So that was some of the purpose of the tomato aspic sitting on the shelf and the condiment tray and pickles. Okay, so here's another one with gummies and smoothies. Finally found a picture for it. But there's all sorts of crazy gummy things online now, and they're so good to take for yourself because they're hydrating, they're a snack, low calorie, and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to be, since I finally found this, the green can and the red can, I'm going to be making a whole lot more of my own too. And smoothies. Everybody's into smoothies now. Why not add just a little bit more gelatin to your smoothie? And again, just notes on making your stock, which I've already mentioned. Don't fret if you're not getting super gel out of your stocks. It's all still there. Maybe it's diluted. Maybe you don't have enough bones. Maybe the bones just didn't have a lot in them. But just don't worry. Just keep it up. Just keep trying it and throwing things in there. A lot of people roast their bones. Usually it's the beef bones, and you'll see those in recipes. I don't generally. I have the oven on a lot, but I always forget to just throw them in the oven. They add flavor. To me, after, it's more heat, it's more cooking, it's more change in the food. So I don't do it a lot, but it does add a little bit more flavor because you're going to get basically the burned pieces on the outside, and you're going to get a lot more flavor out of them and even in the pan. So you can do that. It's not totally necessary. If you don't have time to roast your bones before you make a stock, don't worry about it. You'll see them in a lot of recipes, not a totally necessary step. Storing, I put my stock in the fridge and it'll last for a few days and I use it up. It's really simple to bring it out and sip it, add it with something else, maybe make just even onions and broth if you want to re-simmer it with some other kind of vegetables that you want to drink. This morning I actually had, since I was thinking, oh my God, I have to come here and talk, I actually had a couple cups of bone broth. It's calming, it's soothing, it's good for your brain, it's good for you. And you can freeze it. That is duck stock with a fat on top that I froze, and then, because I haven't done duck for a few weeks now, but I froze that so I could bring it and show you. If you want to just go up and play around with it, you can. If you haven't really had good jello out of your stocks, it's just jello, so it's really fun. And again, mostly with the duck stock, depending on how concentrated you think it is, put it in a jar or put it in ice cubes. If you think you really made a concentrated bone broth that day, then stick it in your ice cube trays. If not, put it in a bigger container as big as you want to bring out. So that's all I have to say.
So do you want to tell them what your gift is? You're 20% off.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I have a lot of them, but they're not in the gift bag. I will be doing a lot of, and I have to thank Karen too for finally getting me off my butt to start doing these classes the way I want to do it. I have one of the one and only, I believe, culturing stations, which actually Karen saw the other day, in my restaurant. I have really gotten into the cultured foods and the sourdoughs, all from, I guess, scratch, you could say, the kefirs. Maybe some of you may have heard about this stuff. Kefir, kombucha, I used to be able to only do kind of one at a time, and going through the Nourishing Traditions book, which is the book that Sally Fallon had put all of Weston Price's information in and more. He wrote a book on the degenerative and nutrition. I forget the whole title. Sally Fallon brought this out probably 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago when I started with it. Put it in these beautiful, beautiful books. These are Bibles of information. They are not just a cookbook, although they do have recipes, they have science, they have all sorts of information on those old world traditional foods that actually increase the nutrients. So it's just a Bible, and whereas I don't necessarily, do it, but it's not considered really a diet. It's a way of eating and preparing your food is what I like to call it. I am doing a lot more classes on things like this, and we'll do 20% off on the classes as I have them. And I'll put that schedule up for the summer. There's a handout over there too. Mostly on Sundays I try and do one because they're a little bit lesser for me with a restaurant. But anybody who's here today will get 20% off any of the classes that they'd like to attend. And if there's a group of you that want to come, I would say even 4 of you, if there's a group that wants to come together, and just call me and we'll set up a time. Because I love just talking about this stuff and sharing the information.
You can stay at your place if they come from
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I want to mention, how many people have heard of Weston Price? Okay, so a fair amount of you. How many of you have heard of GAPS? Okay. GAPS is kind of the healing diet spin-off from Weston Price and some others, but the woman who wrote this has spoken a lot with Weston Price and is very, you always see her kind of related to that. She had an autistic son and wondered what in the world could she do. Came up with a diet based on a lot of the traditional foods. You also can get certified in GAPS so that you can, help clients with a different diet. I'm not certified, but in July I do have a retreat where a certified practitioner is going to come. And she'll talk to you, we'll give a seminar on the GAPS diet and how that's important. This she really targeted towards a lot of the children's diseases, I call them, autism and that sort of thing, but it still relates to digestive and overall disturbances. This is just another way, there's tons of them out there, but this is another way, even if any of this information is going to incorporate, I think. So I will have a GAPS practitioner coming in July to the lodge and have a retreat. So I want to mention that too. Any other questions about broths or soups or? Yep.
Does it matter if you use like white vinegar or apple cider?
No, you're really looking for the acid. Okay, so yeah, it's just the acidic part because you can use tomato juice, tomato sauce. You just want that little bit of acid to leach those minerals out of the bones. Yes.
Do you strain through a colander, or do you have to strain through cheesecloth?
I just strain through a colander. I like all those bits in there. I suppose if you really want, a super fine, yeah, you can do that. Depends on the application of what you like.
How much vinegar would you use? Like,
I just do a splash. So if I have, a few gallons in a pot, maybe a quarter of a cup at absolute most. Just a splash.
So not enough to flavor.
No, yeah, exactly. You don't want the flavors in. Yep.
How long can you freeze it for?
Freezing, you can freeze it for, a few months. It's going to stay. It's frozen. So it's all still there.
You have something going on Tuesday as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
thank you very much. As a part of the lodge thing, because as an overall thing for the lodge, I was an occupational therapist in Washington, D.C. years ago and came back to the lodge. I have a history, come to find out, and I was telling Marie a little bit about it because with the emotion coach, it's a long story, but my great aunt and uncle built the lodge. Mm-hmm. It was sold out of the family, bought by another family, and then bought by the Hohmeyer family. I used to work for them when I was 14 and 15. They had a son, thought he was weird, and we didn't really talk much. Still think he's weird, but I married him in the end. So I have a history at the lodge. which I didn't know when I came back as an occupational therapist. I really wanted to see this be a wellness center, but something a little bit different than the typical spa. And now with all this really neat stuff like the emotion code, and I see an earthing mat there, and you know, water therapy and nature that we really need to, you know, our kids, we need to get them out there. So anyway, at the lodge on Tuesday, we do have a wellness summit. We're actually inviting a woman from California to come who's been involved with wellness tourism for a number of years before there was a thing called wellness tourism. And she's going to come and tell us how wellness can relate to us as an individual, us as a business, and us as a community. We'd really like to see, we have some awesome practitioners in this area. There's also the Adirondack Wellness Network that Marie and Karen and I are a part of. I think there's 25 to 30 of us now. It's open for membership, and there's just awesome practitioners from every spectrum. This area and the outside world here is just so awesome for wellness that we want to see what the community has to say about having this area be thought of for wellness as it was years ago with the TB. You came here for healing. So that's what that's all about. It's from 1:30 to,
Here's
well,
the flyer.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants the flyer, it's going to be on that table.
Yeah. Just go to, right now you can go to AdirondackSpirit.com. You can go to the Adirondack Wellness Network.org site and sign up. You can give me a call over at the lodge if you want to join in. So thank you.